Marriage and kids is way more important.
If you really believe that, then why are you here working on your career?
You're not making any sense.
Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Taylor the Fiend back again, and today we are taking a look at modern marriages being the biggest scam for men. Let's jump into it.
Young men, we're just gonna cut right to it. Find a woman, fall in love, get married, have more children than you can afford.
You should get married as young as possible.
Get married and have a ton of kids.
Well, now they say grow up and then get married, and in the past they said get married and grow up.
You know what else they did back in the good old days? They actually had standards for women, and therefore men received a modest, silent, submissive, and virtuous chaste virgin on their wedding night. But now, those rules don't apply. The message is clear. Men have to man up, stop being scared, and just commit to marriage, while holding the same traditional standards for women makes you a red pillar and an incel.
It is awfully convenient that the same men who say find a good woman, get married and have babies are all successful millionaires. A lot of them have no business lecturing average men on the struggles of modern culture when we're living in it, and they are not.
More and more men are voting with their feet and choosing not to get married at all.
I feel obligated to get married, but I'm going to be honest, I don't really want to.
But why is this happening? In this video, we're going to follow the data, the incentives, the institutions, and the history to figure out why the marriage crisis happened, why it's accelerating, and who's really benefiting from this collapse. Because one thing is clear, this is more than a crisis, and this might be the most important topic I've ever covered on this channel. This is why. To understand why so many men are walking away from marriage today, you have to understand a brutal but simple truth that offends modern ears. The deal has changed. For most of human history, marriage was not a romantic lifestyle add-on. Men and women were not expected to live the same lives, share the same psychological rhythms, or occupy the same social spaces 24/7.
Men and women have different roles in life. That shouldn't be a controversial take. The problem is modern culture has determined that all women are goddesses and deserve to be treated as such, and men are effectively soulless demons who do nothing.
For all of recorded human history, whether you talk about the ancient Greeks, the Roman Empire, or Christendom, a man's life was outward-facing. He went into the world to build, to trade, to fight, to govern, to take risks, to participate in politics, guilds, councils, wars, and public life. The home was not his emotional center. It was his harbor. He came home to a household that ran without him hovering over it, children raised into order. This was never seen as cruelty, it was complementarity. This was rooted in the reality that women must respect their husbands and husbands must love their wives, not the other way around. And how good a wife was came from her obedience and humility. When the head is in disorder, the whole body is destroyed. Therefore God hath assigned to the man the care of public affairs, but to the woman the order of the house, that peace may reign within.
It's not just the reversal of marital roles, the attitude has changed as well. A lot of modern women have turned marriage into a massive list of demands that they insist on rewriting at a moment's notice, and they make the man's life more chaotic and impossible to live peacefully.
And here's the part modern people hate to hear. Marriages were mostly arranged, and yes, divorce rates were dramatically lower. Nobody had to convince men that this was a good deal. Now compare that to today's totally cucked version of marriage, where nowadays the only man a woman ever submits to is her boss, the government, and corporations. Today, marriage is sold to men as this: you will work full-time in a system that already drains you, then come home, not to rest, but to pick up the kids from school, run the second shift, and negotiate. Negotiate feelings, negotiate who's cooking dinner, negotiating why you don't want to stay in and watch a Disney movie after a 10-hour day, and the home becomes another arena of management.
If you listen to modern wives, there isn't even a negotiation, there's only appeasement. The husband is forced to take on more and more duties while the wife endlessly shames him for not doing more, and this behavior is encouraged amongst modern wives.
This is the modern dual income reality, where you as a man are not respected, but always expected to provide. And this isn't just vibes. In Japan, researchers found that higher regional dual income household rates were significantly associated with higher male unaliving mortality, even after controlling for unemployment and household financial variables. The data is clear. When women are placed in traditionally male-dominated spaces and roles, male well-being suffers significantly. The modern setup is miserable. So when society acts shocked that men look at this arrangement and say, why would I want this? Here is the missing piece. Men didn't stop wanting marriage. They stopped wanting this fake, castrated version of marriage. Because as much as you socially engineer the times and women, you can't fool men's natural instinct and desire to know what's good for them. But that doesn't stop them from trying.
Why would any man want to enter into a legally binding agreement where he is constantly mocked, shamed, and disrespected by a woman who thinks that every single thing he does for her is the bare minimum, so she acts like a victim? It's a bad deal no matter how you slice it.
Today's conservatives platform freshly baptized 304s on their podcasts and pay them to teach at conservative conventions as, quote, Christian female leaders, while over on Instagram they still dance around in booty shorts and a face full of seductive makeup.
And I don't deal well with judgment. I'm a very rebellious person when it comes up to judgment.
And the same guys telling young men that modern marriage is a great deal end up doing their wives' motherly duties and can't smoke a cigar in their own house. Yet knowing all of this, the so-called right-wing media love rushing young guys into marriage and selling it like it's the magic antidote to social collapse, while skimming right past the one question that actually matters. Why do so many men not even see a viable path to marriage anymore?
It is absolutely shameful how spicy content creators can be so blatantly hypocritical when it comes to their born-again content. They honestly look at us as if we're easily led idiots, and they will never understand why we refuse to buy into their obvious con job.
But I'm always, I think I'm just too old or something. I'm like, why is anyone married?
So they keep us trapped in the safest debate possible. They say divorce rates are dropping.
And the divorce rate is closer to 35%.
The black
50%.
pill responds, no, they're not. Back and forth forever. Like if we just win the divorce stat argument, suddenly the West starts having babies again. But here's the darker truth that both the neocon right wing and the red pill and black pill grifters get wrong. Divorce isn't the bottleneck. That's just the topic that keeps ad revenue flowing and keeping female audiences at bay. The reality is that even if divorce rates magically hit 0% tomorrow, even if you banned no-fault divorce overnight, you still wouldn't get a marriage revival because the main obstacle is not legal risk, it's match scarcity.
There's a huge movement on TikTok of modern wives who do nothing but endlessly complain about their husbands on TikTok. That's merely a taste of the toxicity they create for their husbands' private lives. They're not making homes, they are making prisons.
It's a widening gap in worldview and life goals, especially as huge numbers of women have radically moved leftwards and career first, while men's expectations for what a wife is haven't moved nearly as much. What has shifted, though, is the female formation. A lot of women have been trained to treat marriage less like a vow of mutual sacrifice and more like a lifestyle accessory, and the reasons for that are much more sinister than you think, and I'll get to that in a bit, but we don't have to guess. When you survey unmarried adults who actually desire to marry, the top reason they're still single isn't "I'm afraid of divorce court." It's brutally simple. It's hard to find the right person to marry. That's 58%, the number one answer. Now here's where it gets interesting, because it exposes the contradiction that nobody wants to sit with. AEI points out that 45% of college-educated single women say they're single largely because they can't find someone who meets their expectations. And at the same time, Pew Research shows that the modern young female priority stack has shifted. 2/3 of women, 18 to 34, rate career as a major life priority.
Modern women have made it no secret. They want the best of the best when it comes to men, and the fact is that expectation is the very same reason why they are single and heartbroken, and they expect us to pick up the pieces for absolutely zero benefit on men's part.
Up from 56% in the late 90s. So translate that into plain English. Both sides are looking at the market and saying, where are the marriageable options? But they don't even mean the same thing by marriageable. Men are thinking, is she submissive, faithful, home-oriented, willing to build a family? And on the flip, women are thinking, how much of a modern woman can I get away with being while still receiving the benefits of a traditional husband?
Marriage and kids is way more important.
If you really believe that, then why are you here working on your career?
That you're not making any sense.
Does he look good on my IG posts, support my modern expectations across status, lifestyle, and career ambitions without limiting my modern individualism? And the boomers act shocked when nothing connects, which is why this whole just get married script starts sounding less like leadership and more like a grift.
It's irritating to see these guys say, just get married. It's an overly simplistic and condescending way to ignore men's genuine concerns for not wanting to get into marriage or even relationships. We are just told to man up and do it anyway, which is not a strong motivator to make changes.
When researchers first surveyed women's mate preferences in 1939, ambition and industriousness ranked as the most important traits in a future husband. By the 1990s, those same traits had fallen to 9th place, and in more recent replications, it's even lower. In fact, many Gen Z women see it as a red flag. A strong modern finding is that very high ambition can signal, I won't be warm, supportive, or available. In a 2022 paper surveying 13 large sample studies showed that male targets with highly ambitious goals were judged less warm and as having less relationship potential. But what replaced them? Traits like good personality, emotional maturity, and compatibility. Qualities that, while not bad in themselves, are coded as softer, more relational, and yes, more feminine. In fact, strangely enough, these are actually the biggest traits men look for in their future wife, yet those wife expectations are being projected onto men. Now, don't let any of this fool you. This isn't a generation of women who have suddenly risen in humility and no longer see men bringing in money as important, seeing the virtues of a poor and simple life as good.
The irony is that even though modern women say they want a warm, kind-hearted man, they honestly don't mean it most times. They actually want the opposite. All you have to do is compare what they say to their list of ex-boyfriends, and you will see an easily identifiable pattern.
In fact, quite the opposite. In a 2025 survey of Gen Z daters, the average ideal annual income women expected from a partner was about 6 figures or more. About 1 in 10 Gen Z women said they're looking for someone earning $200,000 plus. The average income is about $60,000 in the US. So women self-report that they want both a man who earns 6 figures and yet somehow doesn't have high ambitions at the same time. So like, where is this money going to come from? How are we going to earn 6 figures in a year in 2026 while not having either a big growing business or selling drugs? Why do we even survey them at this point? I think this is maybe where we begin to learn to stop listening to women's opinions. But if you thought this was bad, just wait, because these contradictions only keep getting more childish and frankly more hilarious as we go along. Pew found 71% of women say a man must be able to financially support a family, more than double what men expect from women. And I mean, it makes sense, but now this is where, while doing the research for this script, I think I started developing gray hairs. Get this, women are also 2 to 3 times more likely to reject a
lot of modern women have
who earns
absolutely
less
no
than they
respect
do.
for men who make less than them because they see it as unmasculine. Men are supposed to be the strong leaders who make more money and look after the women, but they must also be easily controlled by the women in their lives. It makes no sense.
Now, do you want to know what's funny about that? Young women in North America now on average earn about the same or even out-earn men in most metro areas and spreading. So if what women are saying is true, then that's bad news for basically 80% of the male population. That's not me making this up. This is women's own standards folding in on themselves in a contradiction. Now, why and how on earth did we get here? How did women's expectations become so contradictory? Why is a whole generation of young men being gaslit for a problem they didn't create? How did a wife's role shift from being protected to being worshipped? And how does all of this seem to perfectly coincide with a socialist manifesto written over 150 years ago? It all begins to make sense when we realize that basically none of this was organic, and the roots go far deeper than the sexual revolution. That's why when we analyze the incentives, the money flow, and the social engineering, we can not only begin to make sense of all of this data, but we can clearly see what's coming next.
It is insane how the culture has shifted little by little across history, and it's come to a point where women have been brainwashed into straight up hating men for no reason, and it's rather terrifying when you realize how far back this whole disaster goes.
Over the last century, and most notably in the last decade, the mainstream has been carefully engineering and rewarding a very specific male archetype. Safe, emotionally expressive, agreeable, non-confrontational, endlessly validating, but somehow yet still competent and successful and confident and high status. Start with psychology. In 2018, the American Psychological Association published guidelines for working with boys and men that frame traditional masculine ideology as harmful. Once one of the largest psychological bodies on earth encodes that language into best practice, it doesn't stay in PDFs, although it might be promoted by them. It filters into therapist training, school counseling scripts, healthy masculinity workshops, HR compliance language, psychoanalytic language, then into parenting, into the default moral reflex when a firm man is unsafe, and a boundary is control, and leadership is insecurity.
The very same things that men have been doing naturally for centuries is considered toxic masculinity, but when women try to show the exact same behaviors, it's seen as female empowerment. It's a role reversal that makes no sense if you take 2 seconds to think about it.
Then pediatrics piles on. The American Academy of Pediatrics has openly pushed parents away from spanking and towards positive discipline, so a whole generation grows up in a world where authority is negotiation, correction feels like harm, and consequences are treated like trauma. Then the NGO layer industrializes it. Equimundo, formerly Promundo, runs the Caring Masculinity Fund, which receives $20 million from Melinda French Gates via Pivotal Ventures in 2024, supporting global programs to promote men as caregivers and counter traditional masculine norms. That's a lot of money. Global Fund for Children pushes boys beyond bias and healthy masculinities, backed by major UK public funding, and has invested $56 million into 1,000 plus organizations. Add in big name funders like Ford, Open Society, and Foundation Chanel. Now keep some of these names like Open Society in the back of your mind, because they'll be relevant later.
When you take a look at the mainstream media content alone, it's rather unsettling. Take a look at how boys and men are portrayed in TV, music, movies, and you'll see a disturbing trend to dismantle everything that makes men masculine. It is crazy how effective it was.
And here's the punchline. What looks like millions of independent groups is often one big funding pipeline. An OECD report in 2021 notes that 10 major foundations account for 97% of cross-border philanthropic giving to gender equality in developing countries. And there are 1.8 million NGOs in the US, yet private funding is concentrated among fewer than 100 major foundations and corporations. The top 10 to 20 are especially dominant, and we'll go over their ideology and why they have so much in common in a bit. It's much darker than you think. The next step is for media to seal it and to package it and to make it normalized, and this is the part people really underestimate because they think that movies and ads are just entertainment.
That's right, you sad excuse of a man. You've been rendered completely helpless by a woman.
But I do wonder, as a third-wave feminist, if it's even possible for women to reclaim their sexuality in this deeply entrenched patriarchal society.
Take the word semester, okay? This is a perfect example of this school's discriminatory preference of semen to ovaries. That's why I'm petitioning to have next term be referred to as the winter ovest.
Think about famous role models for a second. Previous generations had a lot of masculine heroes, but nowadays the only allowed role model is Pedro Pascal, and the scary part is it's been this way for too long. Make sure you click on one of the videos on screen now to watch more if you liked today's video. Don't forget to take care of yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.